You know, you've been practicing law for something like 38 years now, and I went looking to see kind of what your clients thought about you, and I found some high praise indeed. It says, for one client, you were the outside counsel he was most comfortable with. She is usually the smartest person in the room, but always incredibly down to earth.
Isn't that wonderful? I hadn't seen that. That's the nicest thing. Thank you for telling me.
How do you earn a reputation like that?
Well, I do think part of it is recognizing that as lawyers, we're here to serve our clients. We're not the star of the show. You know, you don't need to have a big ego. You're not the most important person in the room. Your client or your client's deal is what's really important.
What is it? What are the skills that make a good lawyer that you need to learn first?
You know, and it's changed so much too. When I came out of law school, for instance, our firm, we had a lot of oil and gas clients. They'd been institutional clients for 50 years, and the expectation was they'd be there for another 50, and all you had to do was good work. Well, that's not the world anymore. The need to promote yourself and your firm, to communicate to clients that you're a capable lawyer, it's so much more important now than I think it was years ago.
You grew up, I think you told me, in New Orleans, on Napoleon at Fontainebleau. Right. What was that like? Tell me about how you're...
It's a wonderful, I went to 2 schools in New Orleans, Isidore Newman and then Louise McGee. I went to school on the bus and the streetcar, which you could do often at that time. It was a very normal kind of life. We didn't discover until May of '78 that our part of the city was like the bottom of the bowl. So every time it rained, our house flooded. So we replaced our first floor a number of times as I was growing up. But New Orleans at that time was, and I think still is, just a wonderful place. And I still consider it my home, even though I've been in Houston for 8 years now.
Well, and as a young woman at that time, that would have been, what, in the early 70s?
Yeah, I graduated undergraduate in '72, and there were not a lot of, we had a freshman class, I believe, of 300, and there were 10 women in that class. So it hadn't quite become as common as it is now. I'm sure classes are at least 50-50 now, but it was a little unusual back then, and it must have been the osmosis factor, I guess.
And men and women were really looking at divergent career paths at that time.
It didn't seem to me, I may have been wrong, it didn't seem I was going to have the same options to grow in a career that perhaps a young man at that point would have. That might have been totally wrong, but that was sort of my perception, and I realized I need to prepare myself a little better than just going through college. And I don't know if that's changed now or not, to be honest.
I'm sure it's women like yourself that have helped to make some of the change in the legal profession. Do you see a difference today?
I don't know what the people at my firm thought when they were interviewing me, because I was the first woman to go to Liskow Lewis, and I've always been treated wonderfully and don't feel like I was ever held back. But I do wonder what they thought when the first woman is being interviewed.
And you did go to Houston. You went to Houston as one of the founding partners of taking Liskow and Lewis to
Over
Texas,
there.
right?
Right.
Tell me about that experience.
You know, it is so funny. We had been talking about a Houston office probably as long as I had been at the firm, and we'd have consultant after consultant, and then we said, oh, we really don't want to do it, really don't. Well, Gene Fendler, who is another LSU grad, when he started his term as president, said, okay, we're either going to go to Houston or we're never going to talk about this again. And it was sort of like, oh, well, we should go to Houston. So 5 of us ended up going and opening the office in January of '05. And of course, Katrina struck in August. So everybody thought we were brilliant. Well, we weren't brilliant. We were the only 5 that would agree to go. But it's been a wonderful experience. It really has. My proudest moment, I think, was being president of the Law Institute several years ago, but that's sort of like crowning achievement for your life.
Why was that so important to you?
I guess because, again, with LSU, and of course the Law Institute is a statewide, no law school owns it, but particularly since it's always been housed here, the professors, at least when I was going through law school, often were involved in Law Institute activities. It was always sort of the the shining star, I guess, of legal involvement. So it was a great privilege to be on the council and then to eventually be president.
Do you have any other challenges you'd like to meet?
To meet, I think I would just like to keep learning. And that's what I like so much about law. It's no 2 days are the same. You have different questions, different issues, different clients. It's an ongoing learning experience. So I don't know that there's any achievement I want, but I hope I get to practice and be useful and help continue to grow the firm.